Hey guys, Matt Dawson here from Inspire Music School, coming at you with another live. We had a question earlier today about how to hold a pick. So this is going to be a very useful lesson for those of you that are just starting out with the guitar. Maybe you're one of the many people that start out with the guitar that doesn't like to use a pick. We've all been there, we've all been in that position where we've just thought, no, I like using my thumb, I don't like using my pick. You're not alone in that instance, so I'm going to be giving you 3 massive tips that are definitely going to help you with your picking. And for those of you that are watching on the live, thank you so much for checking us out on the live. For those of you that are watching it back on the replay, thank you very much for checking this out on the replay. And for those of you that are watching this on the replay that aren't in our online group, feel free to head over to Inspire Music School online on the Facebook group section of the search, and you can join our group and get your question answered in real time live today. So first things first, we need to look at how we actually hold the plectrum. Holding the plectrum sounds really simplistic. You can go, well, you hold it in your hand. Yes, that's absolutely right, you do hold it in your hand. That's the oversimplified answer. However, there is a right way and a wrong way to holding the pick, and we want to make sure that we are doing that. If you use a plectrum, or if you've got a favorite plectrum that you like to use, please let me know in the comments what that is. Tip number 1 is going to be finger selection. So finger selection for how we hold our pick. Now, I would always recommend using the first finger and thumb, leaving these fingers free. Okay, so first finger and thumb, and I'll go over why in a second. You do see some people kind of picking with these fingers here, but if you're picking with these fingers, so first and second finger and your thumb, you're limiting yourself to the amount of free fingers that you've actually got. So you want to make sure you're using just these 2. So this is tip number 2. Think about the amount of pick that you're using. Now, this is kind of a standard shaped pick. Okay, so when we're picking, we don't want to be picking with our, we've got our first and our thumb, but I don't want to have my fingers kind of on the edge. I'm picking right on the edge here. I don't have as much control. However, if I take this and I kind of want to not use no plectrum, but I want to minimize it so that I've kind of got a decent handle on it. I've got a lot more control over my picking hand there. As opposed to if I try and do the same thing here, where I've got loads of pick on the go, I'm hitting all these rogue strings that I don't want to. If I'm, playing and I've got my pick in my hand, I want to make sure I'm only using that amount of plectrum. I don't want to be using too much. If I use too much, I don't have a lot of control. So the amount of grip that you apply to your guitar pick is kind of the make or break to how successful you'll actually be when it comes to playing your guitar. So what a lot of people do is they gauge their picking, they hold their pick as hard as they possibly can, and just because they're concentrating. That's the only reason why they do that. It's just because they're concentrating. And when we're concentrating and when we're really focusing, we go very tense. I don't know if you've noticed, but you kind of seize up when you're really focused, and you don't want to be doing that. You want to make sure that you're nice and relaxed, and you're holding the pick at a nice kind of neutral kind of grip. I'm basically holding the pick hard enough so that I can wobble the pick a little bit in my finger. So if I imagine this is the string, my first finger here is the string, you can see there's a bit of give in my finger as I go down and up, okay? You can see that. That's what I want when I'm hitting the string. What I don't want is, if this is my finger, if this finger here is my string, I don't want to be going down and then pulling it back and then pushing it back down, because I'm going to show you what that sounds like in a minute, and it sounds really terrible. You don't want that. Now I'm going to give you a little bonus tip at the end of this, just so that you can kind of have something to kind of take away. But the thing that you definitely want to make sure that you're doing is holding it nice and loose. A lot of people say, oh, my pick spins. The more you use a pick, the better you get used to playing with one, and the less that will actually happen. So it sounds like the cookie cutter kind of, oh, just do it more and you'll get used to it. But honestly, guys, that will actually work. Now, if I'm holding my pick too hard, and say if I wanted to pick like that sort of rhythm. If I'm holding my pick too hard, I'm going... there's too much resistance coming from the strings, okay? So I want to make sure that when I'm picking, like I said, there's a bit of give, so that when it's hitting the strings, I can actually navigate fairly easily through the through whatever riff it is that I'm playing, or a solo or whatever. And the last thing I'm going to say is going to be think about the thickness of your pick. Now, a lot of people when they start out, they use these really thin bendy picks because they go, oh, it just feels really good when I'm strumming, because there isn't any resistance there. But if you're holding your pick really, really light and you're kind of doing everything right, it doesn't matter how thick the pick is. You can have a really thick pick like this, and you know, you're still going to get a really nice sound from it, and it's still going to be fairly easy to strum with. But the reason why I would say to use a really thick pick is because it's more universal. So you can pick with it, you can do arpeggios with it, you can run your scales with it. You don't have to have a different pick for different songs almost. You know, I used to have that when I was starting out. I had like a pick that I used for like riff songs, and if I had a strum along kind of song, I'd have this kind of pick, you know, or whatever. You want to make sure that you're using a fairly thick, dense pick to actually pick your strings with. So again, I'm still wouldn't recommend going for like the jazz picks, like the jazz 3s or anything like that, because they're just too small if you're starting out. If you're an intermediate or an advanced player, by all means, if you've never used a jazz 3 pick, go check them out. They're pretty cool, and they're quite nice to play like your faster lead lines with. But if you're starting out, I'd say a nice normal sized pick that's fairly thick. And in terms of how thick should it be, one that isn't so easy to bend. It sounds like a really oversimplified explanation, but honestly, we don't have to get too super technical. It's just go into a shop. Usually in the shop they've got the little tray in front of you where you can kind of lift the lid and pick up all the picks. You know, if you take a pick and you can bend it really, really easily, it's probably not going to be the best universal pick. If you pick it up and there's a bit of resistance there, or there's a lot of resistance there, that's probably going to be a very solid pick. That's probably going to be a very solid pick to use. I'd recommend using that pick and buying quite a few of them, because obviously, as we all know, picks go walkies. So definitely don't buy one or two, buy like as many as you can. Okay, so just to recap again, so tip number 1 is going to be finger selection, making sure that you're using the right fingers. So first finger and thumb is what I would always recommend. Tip number 2 is going to be thinking about the amount of pick that you use. So don't be using really, really little amount of pick. Make sure you're using a decent amount of pick when you're holding it. Number 3 is going to be thinking about the grip. Don't be gripping it too hard, because you're going to really, really handicap your playing, and it's going to be very, very tough to actually pick the strings successfully. And as a bonus thing, I'd say definitely check out a thicker pick. You don't want to be opting for a thin pick. You want to have a nice thick plectrum when you're playing your guitar. Well, I hope that's been helpful. Thank you so much to those of you that have been watching in on the live. For those of you that have been watching on the replay, thank you so much for checking us out on the replay. For those of you that are viewing this in other groups, do head on over to the Inspire Music School online Facebook group and join the discussion today. Post your questions and we will answer them in real time. It's not a group full of thousands and thousands and thousands of people, so if you post, you will probably get your question answered in some form or another, either by myself or by other members of the group. Wherever you are in the world, thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening. I'm going to wrap up now, and enjoy the rest of your day or evening or afternoon or wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is that you're watching this. Bye.